It really feels like 2021 is going to be a pretty busy year in the NHL when it comes to trades. We've already seen a blockbuster in the Patrick Laine and Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. It seems like there are a lot of players that have requested trades over the past month or so. So with all that being said, in today's video, I wanted to go over 8 NHL players who I think will likely be traded in the year 2021. It doesn't have to be before or at the trade deadline. It can just be any time in the year 2021. So it could be in the off season. It could be at the start of next season. You guys get the point. Just sometime before 2022. If there are any players that you guys think could get traded within the next year, be sure to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Make sure to go ahead and follow my social medias like Instagram and Twitter. Links to those will be down below in the description. And most importantly, if this is your first time on the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And now let's begin. Starting off the video at number 1, the first of 2 goaltenders we're going to talk about in today's video, Darcy Kuemper of the Arizona Coyotes. Now, I feel like this all sort of depends on what direction the Arizona Coyotes want to go in, because as of right now, they are in a playoff spot. They're 4th place in the West Division with a 6-5-1 record. But realistically, is this a team that anybody thinks can do actual damage if they get into the playoffs? Does anyone look at the Arizona Coyotes and deem them a threat to win the Stanley Cup? I personally do not. In my opinion, I think the Coyotes should look to sell, maybe try and get a first round pick, considering they don't have their own first round pick for the 2021 draft. So I'm thinking Darcy Kuemper is a guy that could fetch a pretty good return, especially considering he's still under contract for next season as well at a very reasonable $4.5 million cap hit. Darcy Kuemper has been one of the league's best goaltenders over the past few seasons. In terms of a team that I think could potentially make a run at Darcy Kuemper and that I think would be a good fit, I have the St. Louis Blues in mind. As of right now, the backup for Jordan Binnington is Ville Husso. He's having a really rough go of things to start this season. I think Darcy Kuemper and Jordan Binnington would make a really solid 1A, 1B tandem in St. Louis, and I think the Blues have some assets that could intrigue the Arizona Coyotes. Vince Dunn is somebody that comes to mind. It was reported earlier in the season that the Blues were looking at moving Vince Dunn. I think the Coyotes could use a young defenseman like him. Looking at their roster, I think the only 2 defensemen they have under contract for next season are Ekman Larsson and Jacob Chychrun, so that is sort of just an idea. Nonetheless, I do think Darcy Kuemper is a player we could likely see traded sometime within 2021. His name was in the trade rumor mill a good bit before this season started. Moving along now, number 2, we have a pretty obvious one, Tony DeAngelo of the New York Rangers. I feel like I don't really have to explain this one too much. Everybody knows the current situation when it comes to Tony DeAngelo. He was placed on waivers by the Rangers, nobody claimed him, and then after that it was reported that there were some teams interested in trading for Tony DeAngelo, and with that being the case, if there are teams interested in trading for him but they didn't claim him off of waivers for free, I can only imagine they're actually asking for New York to also give them some type of asset along with DeAngelo just to take him from them. Rangers general manager Jeff Gorton has said that DeAngelo has played his final game with the team, so unless they're going to buy him out, which I don't think they want to do because they're still paying Shattenkirk from that buyout, Dan Girardi from his, and also Henrik Lundqvist from his buyout as well. One thing that I am very curious about is if there is a team out there that does go ahead and trade for Tony DeAngelo, are they actually going to use him, or are they just going to, trade for him, maybe get a draft pick from the Rangers along with DeAngelo just to take him and then just buy him out? That is definitely something I could see happening. At this point, part of me wonders if DeAngelo has played his final NHL game, not just for the Rangers, but NHL game in general. Let me know your thoughts on the whole thing. It is a pretty crazy situation, but I did have to talk about DeAngelo in this video because, he is definitely a guy who will likely be traded in 2021, whether it's for a buyout or because the team actually wants him. Number 3, I'm not quite sure how Leafs fans are going to feel about this, but I actually have Travis Dermott, defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Pretty much the biggest reason why I have Travis Dermott in this video and why I think he's somebody that we could likely see traded within the next year is just because of how many bodies the Toronto Maple Leafs have on the blue line. You look at the left side alone, you have Jake Muzzin, Morgan Rielly, Mikko Lehtinen, Rasmus Sandin, and then Travis Dermott. I'm just not sure if Travis Dermott has a long-term future with the Maple Leafs. He gets into some games, He's played 9 this year, played 56 last season, 64 the year before that. I think Dermott is a guy that on a team that isn't trying to contend for a Stanley Cup could probably be, you know, a regular NHLer, like on a team like the Red Wings or like the Ottawa Senators or the LA Kings. He's still only 24 years old. I think Travis Dermott has an intriguing skill set. Again, I just don't know if there's a long-term future for him in Toronto, especially with somebody like Rasmus Sandin there on the left side behind Muzzin and Riley. This is a situation where I just feel like it would be the best thing for Travis Dermott's NHL career if he was traded to a team where he would, you know, get a little bit more opportunity. Number 4, Derek Stepan of the Ottawa Senators. What a mess this whole situation is. In the offseason, Derek Stepan was acquired by the Senators in exchange for a second-round pick. Even at the time this trade happened, I was pretty confused by it. I wasn't sure why a rebuilding team like the Ottawa Senators would go ahead and give up a second-round pick for a 30-year-old center like Derek Stepan, who's in the final year of his contract, is coming off of a season that wasn't really the greatest, and now here we are just 13 games into the 2021 season in the Ottawa Senators case, and they are already regretting that decision. Apparently DJ Smith and Derek Stepan literally don't like each other, and then it came out that Derek Stepan would like to be traded back to an American team so he could be closer to his family. So I think it is very likely that we see Stepan traded sometime in 2021, probably sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes within the next week or so, honestly. Now, what exactly could this trade look like? I'm honestly not quite sure. I feel like Ottawa might have to retain some salary. Derek Stepan making $6.5 million this season. The Minnesota Wild are a team I've seen a lot of people talking about that would be a good fit for Stepan. He's from Minnesota. They don't really have the greatest center depth, so I guess they could use somebody like Stepan. I would be pretty shocked though if Ottawa gets like anything better than a 5th round pick for Stepan, which is pretty unfortunate for them considering they gave up a 2nd round pick for him. Moving along now, number 5, Kyle Palmieri of the New Jersey Devils. I feel like Palmieri could be like the prime rental target for a lot of teams around the trade deadline. He's in the final year of his contract that pays him $4.65 million a season. He's a guy who has scored 20 or more goals in each of the past 5 seasons. Now, unfortunately for the Devils, his value might be sort of low right now because he's having a bit of a rough start to the season. Through 8 games, he actually hasn't scored a goal yet, but I wouldn't really worry about that. I mean, Palmieri's been one of the most consistent goal scorers in the league since 2015, so if he is available, I do still think there would be a ton of teams interested in him. Maybe if the Ducks are still in the thick of the playoff race come the trade deadline, they could try to bring him back to Anaheim. They're familiar with Kyle Palmieri, and we all know they could use help scoring goals. But then again, the Ducks are a team that's still looking towards the future, so I'm not sure how quick they'd be to give up some future assets for somebody like Palmieri on an expiring contract. Maybe a team like the Carolina Hurricanes, who are obviously a lot closer to contending than the Ducks are. I think they could maybe use another top 6 winger. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Kyle Palmieri. If the Devils don't think that they can re-sign him after this season, then I think it would probably be in their best interest to try and get some assets for him at the deadline. Next up, number 6, another pretty obvious one, like Tony DeAngelo, Sam Bennett of the Calgary Flames. I say it's obvious because Sam Bennett is somebody who recently requested a trade. He wants a change of scenery. I talked about this situation a little bit more in depth in a recent video I made on the channel. You can go check that out if you have not already, where I went over the Sam Bennett news and the DeAngelo news together. It makes sense as to why Sam Bennett would like a change of scenery. In terms of regular season, he hasn't had much success with Calgary in terms of individual performance. The playoffs are really where Sam Bennett has thrived up until this point in his career, so I feel like if he does get traded, it'll probably be to a contending team that wants him for the playoffs. Normally, when it comes to young players requesting a trade and just wanting a change of scenery, I usually suggest maybe they should go to a team not trying to contend so they can get some opportunity to, you know, play higher up in the lineup and stuff, get more opportunity, but I don't really feel that way when it comes to Sam Bennett. Yes, he is still relatively young, 24 years old, but I mean, this is his 6th NHL season. He's played 375 games. I feel like he sort of is what he is at this point. I don't know if there's any untapped potential there. I'm sure you can tell by the thumbnail, but I'd love to see Sam Bennett in a Maple Leafs uniform. I think he'd be a perfect fit, a gritty player, performs in the playoffs. I'm just not 100% sure what the Maple Leafs would give up to bring Sam Bennett in. Moving along, number 7, the second goaltender of the video, Jonathan Bernier of the Detroit Red Wings. Definitely not not as good of an option as somebody like Darcy Kuemper, who we talked about earlier in the video, but a much cheaper option for sure. And Jonathan Bernier is somebody who is on an expiring deal, so he's going to be a UFA at the end of this season. This season and last season, the Detroit Red Wings have absolutely sucked, and Jonathan Bernier hasn't really sucked. He's actually been okay, all things considered, last season especially. I think Bernier could be an option for some teams if they're looking for at least just a viable backup goaltender. Like I mentioned with the St. Louis Blues, I don't think Philly Husso's really cutting it for them. I mean, look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and their goaltending situation right now. Jonathan Bernier could even be their starter. Well, that's kind of a joke, but also not really. Anyways, I think Bernier is definitely somebody who we could likely see traded soon, especially when you consider where the Detroit Red Wings are at. I think they should sell off as many players as possible, especially guys on expiring deals, like Bernier, Bobby Ryan, John Merrill, guys on expiring deals that at least have a little bit of value, that is, because I mean, who wants Darren Helm or Valtteri Filppula? Number 8, the final player we're going to talk about in today's video. I wanted to swing for the fences on at least one of these picks, make one kind of come out of left field a little bit, so I'm going with KRIS Letang here of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, when it comes to the Penguins, news came out the other day that they have hired Ron Hextall as the general manager, and they also surprisingly signed Brian Burke as the president of hockey operations. And I don't know why, but I have this feeling that those guys are gonna do something to put their stamp on this team, and in my opinion, I think Pittsburgh should sort of be looking to the future now anyways. They have some good young players. Jake Gensel, Pierre-Olivier Joseph looks fantastic, John Marino, but the prospect pool is honestly one of the worst in the league. The core guys are getting up there in age. Crosby, Malkin. I found it really hard to believe that Pittsburgh would ever trade Crosby or Malkin no matter who's in charge, so that's why I didn't put one of those guys here and I went with Letang instead. I feel like he's the most likely to be traded. Letang does have a modified no trade clause, but it's a pretty lenient one. He lists 18 teams that he would accept a trade to, so that's, a good amount of teams for Pittsburgh to work with. Letang's got this season and next season left on his contract at a cap of $7.25 million. When you consider what KRIS Letang brings to the table, I definitely think that's a movable contract. It's not like there's 5 more years left on it or anything like that. Is this a little bit far-fetched? Yeah, I guess, but like I said, I wanted to put at least one controversial pick in the video just so it's not all obvious ones. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Penguins should, maybe look to move some of their core veteran players to build towards the future? So that is going to do it for today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. If there are any players that we did not talk about in today's video that you think could likely be traded within the next year or so, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. As always, if you guys did enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this is your first time on the channel and you enjoyed the video and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all in the next video.